All right, guys, what's up? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. Now, for those of you guys that remember, before the beta of Splitgate 2, so we're talking like over 5 weeks ago, and obviously way before that, we had the Splitgate 2 alpha. Now, I did not play the alpha, but I remember other content creators did. And one of the first content creators that I saw that played the alpha that made a video on it was Drifter. And I remember him specifically saying and praising that the game felt really, really smooth and really, really well optimized for an alpha. And he was running, I don't know, a 3070 or a 3070 Ti or something like that. And everything was running smooth. He was able to record, stream, and play the game on good settings and stuff like that without there hardly being any problems, if not at all, right? He was like praising of how well it was optimized. And as you guys know, the alpha was only available on PC. So there was only one port to focus on when it came down to the alpha. Now, obviously, when it came down to the beta, we had more platforms to worry about, specifically three more, which was the PS5, the Xbox Series S and X, right? And then now with the full release of the game, there's obviously last gen support. Now, from an accessibility standpoint, I've always been on board with as many people as possible playing the game. You know, it can certainly help the game in terms of population. And I remember seeing not too long ago that, like, what was it, about 40%, give or take, of people that are on the PlayStation side of things are still playing on the PS4 compared to like the 60% or whatnot, or somewhere around there, of people that have a PS5. That's actually a significant chunk of players. But I can't help but wonder, like right now, in terms of where we are or where we've been over the last month or so, I wonder how many people are actually playing on last gen consoles compared to the ones that are playing on current gen, as obviously, and as well as PC. We know that the console numbers are higher, but we don't know, like, in terms of, Xbox One compared to the Series S and X. And then obviously the PlayStation 4 compared to PlayStation 5. We don't know those numbers. I know the devs do. But I wonder if that number of last gen consoles to current gen consoles in terms of ratio, I wonder if that's significant or not. But one of the things that I do believe, again, I'm not a developer by any means, but this is a subject worthy of talking about. One of the things that I do wonder, though, is whether or not, having to worry about so many platforms, right, is slowing the game down. And what I mean by slowing the game down is, obviously, we know that there were higher things on the devs, on the list of things that the devs prioritized. Certain things were prioritized over others. We know this. I'm pretty sure every dev team out there has a list in terms of, what they find is more important compared to what's not important or whatever. And depending on the player and stuff like that, some people will agree with that, some people will disagree. But I think it's safe to assume that one of the things that they wanted to make sure was the game was available to play, and as best as it possibly could play, on every single platform. And I think that's where part of the challenge comes in, because I still remember to this day, like when Call of Duty Ghosts released like 10 or 11 years ago, like there was a transition of gens of consoles, right? We went from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, so it's like there were more consoles that the devs had to worry about, which presents a challenge from a development standpoint. If anything, I would probably say it's very, very time consuming. And when you've got a multitude of different platforms, that's a potential multitude of extra headaches. So some people will say that Splitgate 2, to a certain extent, when you're talking about last gen console support, is possibly shooting themselves in the foot. But it really depends on how, on number one, how you look at it in terms of how many people are playing on last gen versus, current gen. And on whether or not it's actually simple to actually provide for last gen compared to current gen. But when you're talking about some of the issues that this game particularly has, like when I mentioned earlier about what Drifter had said in his video and about the Splitgate 2 alpha and his praises for it, especially when you're talking about the optimization standpoint, you gotta admit that, like, all of a sudden, the game comes out full release, you got all these other things, and then all of a sudden this game has some issues in terms of performance. Now, for me, in terms of my experience, like I'd say 95+% of the time, on my 3060 Ti build, 32 gigs of RAM, 12th gen i5, the game has, for the most part, been running well for me. I did have a couple of crashes. I've had like maybe from beta up until this point right now, I've probably had anywhere from 3 to 5 crashes in total. And I'd say at the most, like 10, if not slightly under times to where the game stuttered. But then I was able to kind of like just, it was something that would only last for a few seconds, and then okay, things were fine after that. But other than that, everything's been pretty consistent as far as my experience is concerned. But there are people out there that have more powerful rigs than myself. Some of you guys are on stream. Shout out to Streamtown, by the way, as well as some of you guys that are also content creators. And some of you guys definitely have more powerful rigs than myself, and yet you're struggling to, depending on, and sometimes it doesn't matter which game mode you play or whatever. It's like if you have OBS running, if you're getting ready to stream or something like that for whatever reason, the performance just takes a huge shit when it comes to the game. Or even if you don't have OBS going on, or if you just decide to play the battle royale for whatever reason, your frame rate just takes a huge dump. You know what I mean? Or onslaught or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, it could be a multitude of different situations in different modes or whatever. But for whatever reason, you're getting a significant, inconsistent type of performance with the game. And again, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because I wanted that word to spread, because I do know that the devs are listening. And it's obviously something that's very important, and I'm sure they're listening. But at the same time, if somebody's got like, I don't know, if somebody's got like a 3080 Ti, which is more powerful than my 3060 Ti, as well as, a more powerful GPU than mine, they definitely shouldn't have problems, with the game, especially since the game is capable of running on last gen console at what is supposed to be, at least, a 1080p smooth 60 frames per second on those consoles, because we know that the PS4 as well as the Xbox One are definitely capable of running those numbers. So with the fact that you have PCs that have problems, getting to a certain frame rate, especially for ones that are powerful, that's kind of like, an issue. And I don't, hopefully this is something that doesn't happen to too many people. But if I have people come into my stream, and I'm a small guy, right? I mean, granted, today, I had a good amount of people on my stream and absolutely loved it. And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to stop streaming. But after about 4 hours, I'd say that was enough. But I had about 2 or 3 people telling me, that they've had certain issues in total. And then at the same time, I also had one other person that had an older rig, right? That basically said that their performance was fine. So I'm wondering if there's anything, in terms of the amount of platforms that we had to worry about in terms of making this game, as optimal as possible. I'm wondering if current gen consoles, or even, PCs, in terms of optimizations, or with the kind of inconsistencies that some people have been having with optimizations, or, even the problems that this game has, like the bugs in terms of like the daily challenges. They're tracking according to what the dev has told me. There's just like kind of like a delay to where you won't see the progression for like sometimes much later than what it is, but it is tracking, but it's just not visible, which is obviously a problem. It's a bug or whatever you want to call it. But I'm wondering, like, if the fact that like you've got so many consoles and so many different platforms to worry about, on whether or not this thing isn't squashed already, because it's been something that's been there, you know what I mean? So and obviously ranked has its own issues. I don't really need to get into that. I mean, that's not what this video is about. But for the most part, though, the game was praised during alpha, and there was no hiccups. But granted, it was only available on PC. And then lo and behold, now with the game's full release, about a month or so ago now, there's all these issues, and some issues in terms of that have yet to be solved. So I'm wondering, how popular is last gen, and at the same time, is that the reason why some of these problems are persisting? So and the thing is this, like I said, I support the fact that more people can play this game, but is it one of those things at the same time to where it's to where current gen is facing issues that are lasting longer than they normally would because of that? Or is it something just completely different that is a puzzle that the devs still need to figure out? Because above and beyond what I've seen in terms of the development of a game, I've only seen things in terms of what's been said online by developers, like for instance with X Defiant and Mark Rubin. There was a lot that we learned through him, through his transparency in terms of what he had mentioned in terms of how things need to get approval from the different consoles or whatnot before you update the game or whatnot, as well as a few other things that he explained to us. And obviously there's behind the scenes of games that I've seen throughout time, and it's let's just say making a game and maintaining a game and all these different things is definitely not easy. But But yeah, I can't help but think, you know, about last gen slowing things down. I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. I'm pretty sure some of you guys are going to be very vocal about this in the comment section. And if there's anybody that's only playing on PS4 or Xbox One, I want to know two things. Number one, how's your experience with the game? Is it running smoothly? Is it consistent and all that kind of stuff? Or are you having issues? You know, whether it's frame drops, whether it's whatever it is, I want to know. And at the same time, for those of you guys that have been playing on current gen as well as PC, I want to know what your experience is and if there's any specific problems that you've been having. Whether you're on Xbox Series S or X or PS5 or on PC, be very specific with any kind of issues that you have, because the developers need to be made aware of this. And I like to basically use this channel as a beacon of feedback to the developers, because you guys have been very generous with your comments, with what you have to say. So and the developers want that feedback to continue coming, so that way everything can just be better. So if we need to put this to the forefront, because it is something that is important, right? The game needs to be as optimized as possible. It's something that the devs need to be aware of in terms of specifics. So with that being said, guys, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you have to say, especially on the last gen side of things. I really am wondering how you guys have been enjoying this game, for those of you guys that are on last gen. And I'm just so curious, man. I wish I had access to the data that the devs do, because I really want to know what percentage of players that are currently playing the game, or that have always played this game, like from launch, okay, right? From launch to now, I want to know what the percentage of last gen to current gen is. And, obviously current gen being Xbox Series S, X, PS5, and PC, and then last gen being just the Xbox One and the PS4. Legitimately curious. So, and what do you guys think? Do you guys think it was worth it to have last gen on, or do you guys think it was something that ultimately in the long run would end up, being an extra burden for the devs? I'd really like to know in the comment section down below. And again, as always, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.